Today we're going to be learning about fractions. We're going to learn how to add and subtract fractions. We're going to determine or figure out sums and differences. Let's go to our first problem. Here's a third grade problem for you. It starts at the top and it gives us some information. It says this model is shaded to represent one whole. And this part of the problem is just telling us that we're dealing with a circle and that circle is divided into 4 equal parts. So we're dealing with fourths. Let's go down to the next part of the problem. It goes on to tell us that these two models are each shaded to represent a fraction, model 1 and model 2. So I take a moment just to analyze those pictures. First model is fourths, and I see that 2 out of the 4 parts are shaded. And in model number 2, again, we're dealing with fourths. In this one, I see that 1 out of the 4 parts is shaded. Let's go to the next part of the problem. It asks us to find the sum of the following models. Now here's where I'm going to grab my highlighter because I see what the problem is asking me to do. So I want to be sure to pay attention to this word, sum. I'm going to help myself by grabbing a tool and recording the symbol of operation that relates to finding a sum, and that is the addition symbol of operation. I'm going to be adding if I'm figuring out the sum of a problem. Alright, let's take a look at our step box over here. The steps to following this problem or solving this problem would be number 1, to write the fractions, number 2, to add the numerators, and number 3, slide the denominators. So write the fractions is number 1. So I'm going to come up here, and I already analyzed this, and I said what I'm looking at here is 2 out of the 4 parts shaded. And in this example, I have 1 out of 4 parts shaded. So I'm going to write 1 out of 4. So we're naming this one as 2/4. We're naming this one as 1/4. The problem asks me to find the sum. I'm going to put my symbol of operation between the two. And it tells me, step 2, add the numerators. Now I have to remember what the numerator is. The numerator is the number on the top. So I'm going to add the 2 plus the 1, just adding the numerators. 2 plus the 1, and 2 plus 1 equals 3. And then it tells me to slide the denominators. Remember, we say the number down below is the denominator. Down below, denominator. So we're going to slide this. The 4 just gets slid over, and so that becomes 4. So 2/4 plus 1/4 equals 3/4. Now I'm going to come back up because I always want to ask myself at the end, is my answer reasonable? Does that make sense? So let's look at our picture again here. I have 2/4 here, and if I would slide 1/4 and add it to this fraction, it would fill in this space, and then I would have 3/4 shaded in. So yes, that makes sense. Let's go to another example. Again, this model is shaded to represent one whole. This is just telling us that we're dealing with a rectangular shape, and it is divided into 6 equal parts. We're dealing with 6. And then it goes on to tell us that these two models are shaded to represent a fraction. And it's asking again, what is the sum of these two fractions? So you remember what we do. We come up here, we grab our highlighter, and we're paying attention to this word. Let's go ahead and annotate what that word means. The symbol of operation that relates to finding sums is addition, so we're adding these two fractions. I don't have my step box here anymore, but I'm going to try to remember the steps. Step number 1 is to identify and write these two fractions. Let me see how many pieces are shaded. 1, 2, 3 parts shaded. So I'm going to name this one as 3 out of 4, 5, 6. This is 6. Remember, the denominator is how many in the whole. So there are 6 in the whole. 3 out of 6. Now we're adding, so I'm going to put my symbol of operation. And now I'm going to identify how many are shaded here, and I see 2 shaded. So I'm going to identify this fraction as 2 out of 6 shaded. Okay, so step 1 was right. Step 2 is add. And we're adding only the numerators, the numbers on the top. So I'm going to add 3 plus 2. 3 plus 2 equals 5. Out of, step 3 was slide denominator. So I'm going to slide the denominator over. I don't add that because my whole stays 6. I'm not changing the whole. And I end up with the sum of 5/6. I'm going to end with my question, is that reasonable? So let me go up to my picture and let's see what happened. In my picture I can see if I added these two fractions together, then this 6 could fit in here, and maybe this 6 is added in and it would fill in this space. And if these two spaces would be filled in, because I added those two 6, I would now have 5/6 filled in. So 3/6 plus 2/6 equals 5/6.